In this week's bulletin, the aftermath of the French terrorist attack affects Christians in Africa. North Korea, still the toughest country to be a Christian. And the Adventist Church mourns a pioneer pastor and aviator.
This is InFocus Christian News and Current Affairs.
At least 8 churches have been burned during riots in the former French colony, Niger. AFP reports a mob of up to 1,000 youths raged through the capital of Niamey, clashing with police. French businesses and pubs were also targeted. Meanwhile, around 255 Christians in Niger's second town, Zinda, were placed under military protection as the situation unfolded. The rioters are angry over the Charlie Hebdo cartoon depicting the Prophet Muhammad after the French terror attack. So far, 5 people have died and many more have been injured. And while the world's attention has been focused on the French attack, an estimated 2,000 people have been killed in Nigeria in what has been described as the deadliest massacre in the history of Boko Haram. The attack took place on January 3rd in the town of Baga, located on the Nigerian border with Chad. According to reports, extremists drove into villages and fired grenades and assault rifles on unsuspecting residents. Most of the victims are believed to be women, children, and elderly people who could not flee the attack. The Christian Post reports many Christians were also killed in the massacre. According to CNN International, bodies continue to litter the area several days after the attack. The Nigerian government, however, has played down the extent of the tragedy, saying no more than 150 people were killed. Thousands of young Christians from across the South Pacific region gathered in Toowoomba in the new year for the largest Pathfinder camporee ever to be held on Australia's soil. Pathfinders is a program run by the Seventh-day Adventist Church for young people that teaches them practical and spiritual life skills, incorporating camping and community service projects. The 2015 I Thirst Pathfinder camporee saw more than 8,000 youth from 14 countries march onto the Toowoomba showgrounds in disciplined units, dressed in their iconic uniforms and waving colourful flags. Water was a recurring motif at the camporee, with daytime activities including water slides and mud fights, and evening presentations focusing on the living water of Jesus Christ. Proceedings came to a fitting end on the final day of the program, with 70 young people baptized in front of their peers and thousands of others expressing their readiness to follow and serve Jesus.
To make this decision to be baptized. And so, Alan, because of your faith in Jesus, it is privilege to baptize you today. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Famous for gospel favourites such as Soon and Very Soon and The Blood Will Never Lose Its Power, legendary singer-songwriter Andraé Crouch has died at the age of 72. According to Time, Crouch, who wrote his first gospel song at 14, went on to receive 7 Grammys and is only one of a few gospel performers to have a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. After his debut in 1960, Crouch was instrumental in the Jesus music movement and also worked with stars like Paul Simon and Ringo Starr. Crouch had suffered from ill health for some time. For the 13th year in a row, North Korea has been named as the world's toughest country in which to be a Christian. Coming in at number 2 on the Open Doors 2015 World Watch list was Somalia, with Iraq and Syria also high on the list of countries prone to Christian persecution. A couple of African nations have made the jump into the top 10 this year. Sudan placed number 6 on the list, and Nigeria rounding up the top 10 after a series of well-documented attacks on Christians by extremist group Boko Haram. More than 3,000 people were baptized in the Dominican Republic's capital, Santo Domingo, this past weekend after a 5-day evangelistic series organized by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The series saw 14,000 people gather at El Palacio de los Deportes Stadium on a nightly basis to hear presentations by Pastor Mark Finley and his wife Ernestine. The turnout was the largest for an evangelistic series in the country in more than 15 years. Seventh-day Adventist church leaders from around the world were on hand to witness the baptism. Earlier in the week, the administrators took a break from week-long business meetings to help construct a new church building, which will provide 40 local residents with a place to worship. The controversial story of the little boy who saw a vision of heaven while in a coma has turned out to be just that, a story. The book, The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven, written by Alex Malarkey with his father Kevin, has sold 1 million copies since its release in 2010. But according to Washington Post, Alex has recanted the tale, posting an open letter to Christian bookstores on the Pulpit and Pen website. He says he did not meet Jesus or go to heaven and just made the claims to get attention. Christian publisher Tyndale House has recalled the book and all associated products. The Seventh-day Adventist Church is mourning the loss of 95-year-old pastor Len Barnard, the denomination's first medical mission pilot to serve in Papua New Guinea. Pastor Barnard first served in Papua New Guinea as a paramedic with the Australian Infantry Forces during World War II. He would return to the country a few years later to serve as a pioneer missionary, a role he devoted himself to for 30 years. While he enjoyed helping people on the ground, Pastor Barnard's greatest joy was to serve people by flying. He made his final trip to the highlands of Papua New Guinea in July last year for the Adventist Aviation's 50th anniversary celebrations. It was a very emotional ceremony for all involved, with many of the locals shedding tears as Pastor Barnard spoke to them in Tok Pisin and led them in the singing of the hymn, When We All Get to Heaven. That's the news for this week.